Welcome to Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with the great Josh Fenwick. Josh, I have to admit, you look a little better. The skin color, it's more along the hue of the orange wall. It has a glow to it as opposed to the pasty white of the white on the Sports 1440 logo that you had last week.
Yeah, no, feeling a lot better than I did last week. That's for sure. Also, a good thing to help bring color back in was that last 5 or so minutes of the Triple S coming in here with my hot basketball take.
Well, I thought I needed to go get a blood pressure machine. We needed to take it. A young guy like you shouldn't get your blood pressure up like that.
I probably shouldn't, but I did regardless. So, here we are. Happy to be here. Always happy to see you, Paul. So I'm ready to get going and see what's on the docket for today.
Oh, and we have a heck of a docket. Sitting in the studio with us, Jeremy Pastorero. And Jeremy, I've wanted to have you on for a long, long time. Jeremy and I go way, way back. Jeremy, you're the same age as my oldest son, Steve, I believe. And Jeremy played Community League. And I remember Jeremy from Aldergrove Community League. And what stood out to me, Jeremy, back then, and I think it's carried through in your basketball career, is I just saw a kid that was really tough and really competed. Because our Otwell team in Community League standards was very good. And you guys at Aldergrove just came out and got after it. And I just remember after the game saying, who's that kid? Because he didn't back down from anybody.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, but I do remember that. Those days were a lot of fun, and for sure definitely prided myself on working hard in the defensive end. That Aldergrove group, it was an awesome group, coached by my dad, and we maybe weren't as experienced, but we kind of looked up to that Altwell team who probably had more experience than us, and it was a lot of fun playing them.
Well, and I'm so glad that you mentioned your father, because I was going to mention him as well. Jeremy and his father have been instrumental in the development of basketball in the community at so many different levels. And I talk a lot about some of the concerns I have for youth basketball and the kind of mentoring that kids get. But whenever I get the opportunity to talk about who is doing it the right way, who truly is kid-centered, who truly walks the walk, about not just making young people better players, but truly making them better people and better teammates, preparing them to be better students and better citizens all around. And it's WEBA, West Edmonton Basketball Association, founded by Jeremy and his father. And they just do a remarkable job. So, Jeremy, it is just great to have you in the studio.
Awesome. Happy to be here. Thank you for those kind words. Yeah.
And so we've got cool things to do. We got to take care of business first. Our second session today will be on Jeremy and all the good work that they do. But first, we got to talk some hoops, some serious hoops. So let's go first with our question of the day, our poll.
Yeah, so today's poll question: which Canadian is your favorite player in the NBA this season? SGA, Jamal Murray, Dylan Brooks, or Shaedon Sharpe?
It helps that I don't put Dylan Brooks' teammate's first name on, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was like,
good catch.
Hold on.
Good catch on your part.
But yeah, you can find that at Hoop City Show on X, the Everything app. It's all happening on X.
And our text line is 833-401-1440 if you have any questions, any thoughts, anything that you want to talk about. And you're going to have the opportunity to do that in just a second with our second question. But before we go to that, the reason I thought we would do a temperature check on who your favorite Canadian is we all know Canada's impact in the NBA has increased, not just in volume of players. We have the second most players in the NBA from a nation not called the United States, but it's no longer the 8th to the 12th man. Steve Nash certainly changed all of that with his 2 MVPs, but now we have some of the better players in the league. The defending MVP, of course, SGA, but I thought what was intriguing about this question right now is the emergence of Shaedon Sharpe in Portland, Jamal Murray playing at an all-star level. But this is where I'll go to you, Jeremy, on this. Dylan Brooks in Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix was a terrible team last year. They get rid of one of the greatest players of all time, and it's almost addition by subtraction plus bring in a character character, locker room, physically tough, attitude guy like Dylan Brooks. And you look at the turnaround in Phoenix, and it's really remarkable.
Yeah, Dylan Brooks is one of my favorite Canadians for sure. He's definitely changed the culture there. He's been a big part of it. It's been pretty cool to see. It seems like he likes to play the villain, and so his opponents don't like him, but it seems like wherever he goes, his teammates like him, like on Team Canada, on Memphis, on Phoenix, on Houston. It seems like wherever he's been in the locker room, his teammates love him. The opponents not so much, and he's a culture changer.
Isn't it the case, though, with all of the playing and coaching that you've done, that oftentimes that you see a player like Brooks and you say, man, I hate that guy on the other team, but I'd love to have him on mine. Yeah. That really seems to be what Dylan's all
about. For sure. Yeah, he's definitely my kind of player. Like he's all the cliches, like mental toughness, dog mentality.
Doesn't show up on the stat sheet a lot of times.
For sure, exactly, yeah.
But what's been impressive to me, and obviously I'm making the case why Dylan Brooks should be the favorite Canadian, but I think what it doesn't, so much of what he does doesn't show up on the stats sheet, but more of what he does is showing up on the stat sheet. And I think that's what is the most surprising about Dylan Brooks, because when he came out of Oregon, I really didn't see him as someone that would have anything resembling this kind of impact in the NBA.
Yeah, he seems to be continually adding to his game. So, where he's not content just to play a role. His shooting seems to be continuing to improve.
Had a 40-point outing the other night.
Yeah,
incredible.
It's been really impressive. And for Team Canada, he shot the ball extremely well as well. So it's impressive to see. He is doing it on both ends. So definitely impressive that he's not content just to be who he is. He keeps adding to his game.
Josh, how about yourself? Who would your favorite Canadian be?
Yeah, I would say my favorite Canadian's probably SGA. I got a jersey of him. I like his game a lot. I just he's so silky smooth with it. I think a close second is Jamal Murray. I think you hit the four that people would really enjoy on there. Ask me 4 years ago, I would have said Brandon Clark. So there's a name nobody's heard in a minute.
Love Brandon Clark. In fact, in the old days, we had Brandon on the show, and we had Jamal Murray on the show as well. And Brandon Clark was another effort player, blue collar guy, did the work in the trenches. I'm not trying to diminish anything that any of these Canadians are doing by singling out Dylan Brooks. All four of these are spectacular players. Murray is having, without question, his best season in his illustrious championship career, and has been a large part of the reason why the Denver Nuggets have been able to continue to be successful in the absence of Nikola Jokic. But we're going to get to Jokic in just a second. We've got one more question, and this is regarding our NBA legend. Every week we try to talk about an NBA legend. I think the history of the game is so important to remember and focus on the shoulders that players today are standing on, that set the standards, that really created the game out of nothing. James Naismith and a peach basket, and Canadian James Naismith in Springfield, Massachusetts, turning this game from that recreational activity to try to keep kids active at the YMCA he was working at, has turned into this global phenomenon now. So we'll talk about that. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you have an NBA legend, and by legend I mean it can't be playing right now, although we did make an exception last week with Steph Curry, but we want a player not playing in the present era right now. 833-401-1440. Send us your choice, and we will pick one. And whoever we pick, we got to get your name and address. And by the way, Josh, I've got to get last week's gentleman too. I forgot to ask about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure I get that to you.
Okay, and then, but we want to get your name and address, and we'll mail out a T-shirt. We'll just need your size as well. Hoop City T-shirt, great logo, great shirts. So, who is the NBA legend that you want to talk about? All right, let's go to 3+1. Josh, start
absolutely.
us off.
We just got a text in here about Canadian players.
Sure.
It says, no love for Alexander Walker. Love how he's been playing in Atlanta. He will be a key part of the team moving forward. From Kale.
Kale, you make a great point. Alexander Walker has had a phenomenal season, his best season so far in his career in the NBA. I, being a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, loathe the idea that they let Alexander Walker go. They really miss his contribution this year, and he's been great for Atlanta. The problem was we have too many good Canadians. So in no way is there no love for Alexander Walker. It's just, it was a tough choice, and he was definitely one of the finalists. All right, let's go.
3 plus 1. Uno. The Cooper and Kahn duking it out just a couple nights ago, combining for the third most points in rookies going up against each other, I believe.
Well, and Jeremy, you can see how clever we are here, like duking it out here. Cooper and Kahn, Cooper Flagg, of course, and Kahn Kneppel from Charlotte. Kahn, I think it's fair to say, has exceeded all expectations this year as a rookie. I kind of laugh now, and I think Kneppel is an example of how the NBA is changing in so many ways. And later on in the show, when Ben Golliver is on, Ben and I go into the weeds on everything. But one of the things we're going to talk a lot about is Kahn Kneppel against Cooper Flagg. But Kneppel, everybody was asking the question, is he athletic enough? Is he tall enough? Yeah, he's just fine. And the other night, for him to go off for 34 as a rookie, Flagg to go off for 49, remarkable shooting night. But I think the thing with both Flagg and Kneppel is the way they get their points, the versatility that they possess in their game, how advanced they are, and how they're able to score the basketball, whether it's shooting the three, getting to the rim, working out of transition. And we're not going to go any further with that because, like I said, Ben and I really go into detail about Kahn and Cooper, but I thought the duking it out was too good to pass up. So
very clever. You're a clever gent.
Yes.
Number 2, our super Serbs, the double jokers, Novak Djokovic in tennis, and our very own Nikola Jokic coming back last night.
And I'm a big tennis fan. I've been to the U.S. Open a couple of times, and Indian Wells, the Canadian Open. I play tennis slowly and poorly, but I love the game. I absolutely love the game. And Djokovic's performance against Jakob Sinner, who has dominated him the last 5 times, was incredible. Jokic is 38. Djokovic is 38. Unbelievable performance against a guy who still was playing at a very high level. But then Jokic's return. So the double joker, again, I couldn't pass that up either because both go by that nickname. But Jokic comes back, only has 31 and 12, 5 assists. So he had a subpar night, Jeremy. But I'm actually going to do a podcast on this. But what is it about Serbian athletes that makes them so special? It's a country of 10 million people. Those of us who are familiar with European history know the kind of trouble that nation has had to endure to emerge. But their competitiveness, 3x3, they're the world champions on the men's side. Unbelievable players. But what is it about the Serbian mentality, in your experience, Jeremy, that delineates them to be so successful from such a small country?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question because I've never been to Serbia. I don't know their culture very well. But even like some of the Serbian players I've coached at St. Francis Xavier, it's definitely cultural. Filip Desenovic is one of my favorite players that I've ever coached, and I feel like his mental toughness and will to win is just elite. And I think part of it is like having that chip on their shoulder, like small country. Their nationalism seems to be extremely strong. Like when you see professional Serbian games and the passion in the crowds, I think their pride for where they're from and to represent their country is great. When they're on the international stage performing, they're playing for their country and for their professional teams.
Very much so. And I think when you talk about mental toughness, I remember the stories about the Paris Olympics and the preparation for the Paris Olympics by the Serbs. You get Jokic back, who was the MVP in the NBA. the way I understood it was no social media was allowed in the gym. They were there for a month. So Jokic comes back from the NBA and goes and trains for a month with his teammates to go get ready for the Olympics. They should have beaten the United States. Yeah. They had the United States beaten. But I think with what the toughness, the mental toughness, the pride, the edge, but I think I really do believe, and a lot of this is based on how much I've watched the Serbian team. There's a team called UB, who won our 3x3 event at West Edmonton Mall. And actually I think they're a 3-time consecutive champion at our 3x3 event here in Edmonton. It's the relentless, ruthless competitiveness and the drive to win. I think they do a better job than any other nation at blocking out the noise and staying focused on the mission. And their relentless pursuit of victory and doing what it takes as a team to accomplish that mission is really impressive to watch. So I'm going to invite a couple of Serb players in and some other people that have played against and with a lot of Serbian players, because I think that, along with the Raymond and Southern Alberta phenomenon, they're really special. I'd love to find out what the formula is, and I'll bottle it, and we'll all get rich. So, but the Super Serbs are incredible. All right, guys, Raptors are 6-4 in their last 10. Now 6-5. They lost last night. Fourth in the East. Bobby Webster seems to be leaning towards staying the course. He's willing to, at least talking, and the trade deadline's still a few days away. But the talk right now is, let's see what this team does. Masai Ujiri did the same thing. What do you think, Josh? Should they stay? Should they tweak? Or should they blow it up and go for Giannis?
See, here's the thing. I really don't think they have to blow it up. I was really doing the dive on this. So the people on YouTube, you can see my new hat, the Toronto Raptors hat. Obviously,
does that mean you're a bandwagon hopper, or is this a new?
No. This is my team. I've been a fan since the kickoff of the 19th season when I really got into hoops.
Great.
That's my team.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no, absolutely, as you should. I was digging into it, and they said reports were coming out that Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes are untouchable. Brandon Ingram should not be untouchable. I'm with you. I think there's the character flaws there, and then also the offensive numbers for when him and Scotty are on the floor are abysmal. Their offense is rated behind the Raptors' actual offense. So I think you could get rid of him. I really like RJ Barrett's game in comparison, and keeping, the whole core together. RJ and Scotty, to me, are more valuable. So I think if you send Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel Quickley, that makes the money work, and 3 first-round picks, I really think that gets it done.
That's an interesting take. You did do a good. That's impressive.
I did.
That's a good deep
I was
dive.
diving into the numbers and all this stuff, and that's what makes sense to me.
Young man, you are growing just before my eyes. Jeremy, how about yourself?
Yeah, it's a tough call. I agree with the Ingram. You also would.
Does that mean you're not a huge fan?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I think he's done amazing with the Raptors, but you could sell high. Now he's looking very good. I don't know if this will be long-term consistency from him, based on his full career. You only blow it up if you could get a superstar like Giannis. Yep. Otherwise, if you're staying the course, there's a lot of talk about even these last 2 games. They're kind of losing the toughness battle against the Knicks in Orlando, and adding a big if Podol is out for a while. So maybe they can just add something an extra big, because they although Barnes and Ingram are quite big, they're lacking rim protection.
Right, and they're just not able to bang on the inside.
Yeah.
They both struggle defending the post. Guy, I'd love to see them get, if they could combine Pirtle with someone else. Maybe I don't know about quickly, but if they could combine Pirtle and get Sabonis from Sacramento, he'd be my guy. Now he's in that phase of his career where we're seeing the injuries creep in, kind of like with Giannis.
Yeah.
Are these going to be longer-term, ongoing, nagging injuries that keep thwarting and really reduce the number of games? But that kind of toughness that you're referring to, really, really would help the Raptors. I agree. Tough call. If I could sell high, I think that's the perfect term. Sell high on Ingram. To your point too, Josh, I'd do the same. I just don't buy. I just am not 100% sold. I'm 50-50 on him. He's very good. He really is. I don't know that his character fits the Raptors, the kind of character the Raptors need to have to really take it to the next level. I hope he proves me wrong if he does stay. That's for sure. Now, we've got a new MVP list, don't we, Josh?
Oh, we sure do. This is the new MVP list. The names included are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, obviously. Luka, obviously. Wemby, very clearly should be on there. And then two names out of the East, Jaylen Brown and Cade Cunningham. And now, Joker, he could still hit that 65-game threshold. So we got to welcome him back into it because I would say he was leading before he went out.
He certainly was. He and Shai seem to be neck and neck with a slight edge with most pundits for Jokic. And now that he's back, and if he can reach the ridiculous 65-game threshold, designed to keep people from sitting on the bench arbitrarily, but now punishing players like Jokic. But we'll see if he can continue his comeback. Came out great last night with 31-12. But SGA, I think, really, Jeremy, you have to put him at the top, even though the Thunder, since January 1st, have been very average for the Thunder, battling the injury bug. But that hasn't fazed Gilgeous-Alexander. He has remained pretty consistent night in and night out. With the injuries, teams have been able to throw double teams at him and get the ball out of his hands faster and bother him more because he doesn't have the weapons around him consistently that they've had, which is really surprising when you think of for the Thunder, because first 25 games, unbeatable, youth, health, all of those things seem to be going in their favor. But now with the Thunder stumbling a bit, do you think SGA is still the clear front runner, or is there somebody else you would inject and say, well, you got to give this guy a lot of thought?
Yeah, I'm definitely SGA right now for MVP. His consistency is it's unbelievable. Like the 20-point streak that he's going on it's like insane. He's like 7 or 8 away from beating the all-time record
of Wilt.
Yeah. And he also defends, which I think is huge. Like some of those names on the defensive side are a liability, and SGA does both. And I think they're still the best record in the NBA right now.
They are.
So not only is he the best player on the best team, and then his shooting efficiency is pretty good as well. Like he's not a volume shooter, so he usually gets the scoring done on pretty efficient numbers, which is very impressive.
Really is. And the beauty of his mid-range game, which has, I think, it's not at the level of Steph Curry with his three-point shooting in terms of impact on the game. I think it's more of a nuanced, subtle effect that more and more teams and more players are valuing the mid-range shot, where that really disappeared when all the analytics nerds said it's got to be threes or layups. And he has demonstrated, along with Kawhi Leonard and some other players, but particularly Shai at the top and Kawhi, that the mid-range game is an invaluable part of an overall arsenal. And you see it in Khan and you see it in Cooper as well now, that the mid-range game is really important in what they do.
Yeah, his mid-range definitely is probably one of the best in the world, if not the best.
If not the best, yes.
I'm a 3-and-D guy, but mid-range is definitely still important. And I think the biggest thing for mid-range is just not many people are good at it. And so
right.
It's when you have a guy like SGA who's elite at it, it definitely adds that dynamic to your team.
And makes the three and the layup a lot more possible, both for yourself but also for your teammates. If people are worried about what you can do in the middle. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Jeremy about his efforts on the west side of Edmonton and all about his commitment to basketball. And I'm really, really excited about the next segment. So I'm excited that you're here with us this morning, joining us here on Hoop City with Paul Sir on your sports leader, Sports 1440. joined by our community champion, Jeremy Pastorero, in just a second. But first, a little bit of an update. Well, number one, Paul's playlist this week are hits from 1969. So that was Rolling Stone's Honky Tonk Women. I remember, music, as everybody knows, whether it's in sports or whatever in life, music is one of the most powerful associations that you carry forward with memories. I can remember the moment I heard that on AM radio back in 1969, because the Stones really were more of a pop group, kind of trying to be like the Beatles. This was really the song that kicked them off as the Bad Boys. And they were kind of trending that way, but this was like full-fledged. And I'm going to post Paul's playlist at the top of the hour as well, with the top 100 hits from 1969. Local update. University of Alberta went down to the University of Calgary yesterday. Both the men and the women lost. Now, on the guys' side, the University of Calgary has not been that good this year, but they're getting healthier. And so Jeff Pippis and his Bears took a bit of a beating last night. Surprisingly, but really not that surprisingly, the Pandas lost to a very good Dinos women's team. The Dinos women have lost to the University of Saskatchewan. They took a couple of tough losses to Regina, or actually they split with Regina. But we'll see what Scott Edwards and his Pandas, who are very, very good, how they respond tonight. My money would be on the Pandas. In the ACAC, Nate went up to Keano College in Fort McMurray. Poor guys had to drive to Fort McMurray. We heard a horrible story about somebody coming back from Fort McMurray just the other day through all of the ice that's going on. But both the Nate men and women did lose to Keano College yesterday. Concordia was squaring off against Kings. Both the Kings men and women defeated the Thunder last night as well. And then the University of Alberta, Augustana played against Lakeland. Todd Warnick, who leads the Lakeland women, coming out of a very, very difficult situation with the firing of their past coach. But I have every confidence that Todd Warnick, who won a national championship at Nate, will bring the Lady Rustlers back. But it's just going to take some time. But, Augustana won last night, and then on the men's side, Lakeland won quite easily as well. We're now going to jump to our Community Champion segment, sponsored by Innovative Benefits. If it's time for you and your company to review your benefits, your personal insurance plans, or investment strategies, talk to Randy Parrish and his team at Innovative Benefits. They will give you straightforward and honest advice with access to the best products in the industry. Trust the great folks at Innovative Benefits to do what's best for you, what's best for your family, and what's best for your business. To find out more, go to innovativebenefits.ca. As I mentioned in our first segment, I'm really excited to have Jeremy in the studio. I remember Jeremy from his youth. You could see his love and passion for the game. But what's always impressive is when people walk the walk. As I've mentioned many times, and even earlier in the show today, a lot of people talk the talk about we're in this for the kids. And whether they are or not, that always is up for debate. But I have no doubt Jeremy and his father, and your father's name, is it Angelo?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Angelo have done remarkable things in building up not just the high school program at SFX, but the what I consider to be the gold standard of clubs in Edmonton, the West Edmonton Basketball Association, or WEBA for short. So, Jeremy, let's start with this. Your dad's a coach. Obviously, he had a passion for the game. Is that how this started, of his passion for the game transferring to you, or was it your passion for the game encouraging him to get involved in coaching you?
Yeah, I think he loved sports. He loved sport in general, and so just he passed that love for sport on to me. And then when I started playing sports when I was young, he jumped in to help as a coach. He wasn't like a professional coach or anything, just a parent helping out, and then helped me through my youth sport career. And then when I finished high school, I decided to get into education, which leads to coaching when you're a physical educator. And I started coaching right when I was 18 years old, assisting at FX. And my love for the game and coaching just grew. And then I've had a lot of good mentors over the years. Then we started up WEBA, and it just continued to grow and over the years. And as I've gotten older and matured, it's pretty cool to see like something we started off small for a few guys, a small group of boys. Now it's like boys and girls, and my daughters are playing in it. And there's been so many people that have helped Weba grow. John Celeste, Nathaniel Wajicki, Gabby Fursley, Brad Farish. Now on the boys' side, it's pretty much Weba. He's done an amazing job, and so. Yeah, and then my dad has always helped me with Weba, so he's like a big part of it behind the scenes. He still helps coach and whatnot too, but he's fully retired now, which is awesome. And so he kind of does all the behind the scene things, and he makes it work really well, which is awesome.
It is awesome, and to have that kind of synergy evolve out of it, and some of the names that you mentioned, I had the great privilege of coaching John and Nathan at Concordia. Brad has done a remarkable job. I mean, FX right now ranked number 1 in the province, defending provincial champions in 4A, or is it 5A now?
5A now, yeah.
Yeah, 5A now. So I'm just an absolutely stellar program. And what strikes, but this is where I'm going to give you a lot of credit. When you came over to FX and were assisting, you were with Fergal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fergal did a fantastic job there. When you came in, what I noticed right away was, again, a team always is a reflection of their coach, was the Pastorero toughness really became a very significant part of the way that that SFX played. And that has carried forward with Brad taking the reins. But to bring these young men, and Gabby, I forgot to mention Gabby, of course, to bring these fine young men, in this case, into your program as leaders, as mentors, guiding the development of people with their intent, that really comes through, I think, at the school level, but also through Weba as well, that I think you have remained true to your commitment that this is for the full person development of the boys and girls who go through the Weba programming. Is that an accurate summary?
For sure. Yeah, we definitely take pride in our reputation as a family and doing it for the right reasons. Like we're a nonprofit. We don't pay coaches. We're not a business. So it's for that reason. It's easy to, like, when you're never trying to make money. We're not trying to make it too big or pull in too many programs or teams or camps. It's everything we're doing is just like for the small group of kids that we're working with, which to me it makes it a little bit easier to do an awesome job. But the whole basis of it is to develop these players as, you know, responsible citizens. And it's really cool now. I'm dating myself and aging myself, but a lot of these players that have come through the program and given back coaching, like now they're having their own kids. And those guys that you've coached, like Nathaniel, John, and Gabby, like they have young kids, and we're joking about, oh, we'll start a U5 team type of thing. And so we're really hoping, like, through the years, like, that they'll carry it on as all of our kids grow up and go through the program.
You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Josh Fenwick. We have Jeremy Pastorero from SFX, St. Francis Xavier, and the Weba Club basketball program here with us on this beautiful Saturday morning. Now, you said something that I think is key here. One of the criticisms of club sports across the spectrum of sports is the for-profit concerns that people have. And the balance is, and I'm not, and I don't want to paint everybody with the same brush, Jeremy, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I do have a point with this. The for-profit brush, sometimes the painting looks like, well, they say they're doing it for the kids, but actually they're doing it for their business. And the kids are their commodity to get to their bottom line. But what you have done, and that's not a value judgment on my part, but what you have done is you have kept your focus narrow, as you said, in that you haven't tried to get too big. And one of the key aspects is you also haven't tried to get too expensive. You retain affordability as a key cornerstone of what you do with Weba, don't you?
For sure, yeah. We definitely, again, my dad, Angelo, has a lot to do with that in regards to fundraising and the casinos and that type of work. But we've always it's just money in, money out. So like we don't we don't charge extra to pay anyone. So it makes it easy for us to keep our fees down. Again, some of our teams are becoming stronger teams, so they're traveling more, which obviously when they're traveling, the expenses do become more.
Of course.
So that's the real reality of it. But for sure.
But I think the way I would phrase that, though, is that's a bottom-loaded model based on the ambition of that particular team. Like you said, if you have a stronger team, and obviously the desire is for them to play more in a broader range of events, then there are costs associated with it.
For sure.
As opposed to the top-loaded model where you pay X amount and you're supposed to get this, this, and this, but oftentimes transparency is a problem, and where it sounds like your model is very transparent.
Yeah, I would hope every WEBA parent and player that I coach would say organization, communication is our best attribute. So obviously we have players that come and go from different clubs, and I know they appreciate our communication and organization. We have a lot of teachers who coach in our program, so usually the teachers are pretty good at that communication organization piece, and I think to our families and parents and players, they really appreciate that, which, yeah, again, it allows us to charge exactly what they're supposed to be paying. Honestly, our kids, they pay less than what they're supposed to be paying because of our fundraising. It's funny, when we first started in 2007, we used to lose money because we're trying to keep it low, and then not every kid would pay their full fee. Right. So literally it was coming out of my dad and my pocket, and I'm oh boy, this is not good. Yep. But now that we've had fundraising and it's an established program, we actually we can charge the kids less than what they're paying for. Dollar in, dollar out, which is nice.
So let me ask you this then, Jeremy. Obviously the pride in what you're doing, both on the court and off the court, comes through in how you're describing this. What is it about WEBA in terms of the development? You've developed so many good players through your WEBA program that have gone on to be successful. And by the way, I'm a firm believer in the developmental model as the inverted pyramid, that it's the community first that trickles down to the elite, as opposed to the inverted pyramid, where people are trying to work up. I think you've placed, again, the value of the individual first, and the successful outcomes, that'll be determined by the commitment, motivation, talent of the individual athletes, boys and girls. But what is it about your WEBA program that has led to such great success in not just SFX, but in other high schools, JP, et cetera, where your athletes have gone on and then have gone on to post-secondary? What would you say are the most critical elements of what you do that's led to that success?
Yeah, I think we really value practice over gameplay. So we really try not to play too many games. And so in this world today, there's so many tournaments and kids play way too many games, and to help them develop, really it's practicing and the skill training that is the most important thing to improve. And so we try to load the practices as much, we try to follow Canada basketball and long-term athlete development as best as possible. Those ratios are very hard, 4 practices per 1 game and those types of things, but we think we practice more than most clubs and teams, and I think that model really helps them. We also value the defensive side of the ball a lot, and so in basketball, you got to play both ways, and we really try to develop that side of our athletes as well.
What you are talking about, and there's a metaphor that's coming to mind, and I don't quite have it crystallized yet, but the best way I could describe it is there's this storm of pressure out there to play. 12 months a year, game. One of the outcomes a lot of coaches talk about at the post-secondary level is kids come in, if fundamentals are an issue for some, but it's also winning a winning mindset. Not that the win is the most important thing, but the winning mindset is. But because kids have played so many games, wins or losses don't matter much, because you lose one, there's another one in an hour. And then there's 5 more next weekend. And the European model, and one of the reasons you have, like at the top of the food chain in the NBA, so many good European and foreign players, is because they play fewer games and emphasize more practice, particularly at the youth levels, up through 16 to 18 years of age. So like what you're presenting is an old-fashioned model that's counterintuitive to the modern model of the hamster wheel, where kids are supposed to just play. Final question for you. How important is playing year-round to the development of the player? Do you encourage multi-sport athleticism, or do you think it's important? Because a lot of kids, what they hear and their parents hear, if you're not playing basketball, somebody else is, and they're going to take your spot. Is that necessary? What's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, I love multi-sport athletes, so that's huge for, like, I'm a huge component of multi-sport athletes. In modern day society, where we grow up, it's getting harder and harder to do multiple sports. I know I'm going through it with my own daughters right now, but I definitely think it's valuable. I don't think you need to play 365 days a year. You definitely need to take time away. We try to build our programs, like August is a big month off. We always, like at the end of high school leading into club, like we really try not to play any tournaments early in April, so they get, half of March and most of April off. A lot of teams jump in right into early April tournaments, and we like to give them some time off, and then also have a month of like practices before we get into competition. So I definitely think time away from the sport, like sport burnout, is real, I think. And when kids are playing too many games 365 days a year, you'll burn them out.
Well, and not only that, I totally agree with you. You burn them out on that sport. But I have seen and still see so many young players, junior high and high school, that are playing multiple sports at the same time, and for multiple teams in the same sport at the same time. And burnout's very real. But in our discussion, I just talked with Ben Golliver from the Washington Post yesterday. And Ben and I go into great depth today on the injury issue in the NBA. And one of the key factors is exactly what you're describing right there. It's overuse at younger ages, leading to physical breakdowns as they get older. So finding a time just to be a kid isn't a bad thing. Taking time away isn't a bad thing. Doing something different isn't a bad thing. And I think so much of the sports mindset perpetrated by a lot of people is the fear factor. If I'm not doing it now, not doing it always, somebody else is going to take my place.
For sure. Yeah, and I think social media, unfortunately, has that negative effect, because
gasoline on the fire.
FOMO, fear of missing out. You're taking a weekend off and you're seeing, these players or these teams are in this tournament and whatnot. And so Brad Farish, the director of, the president of WEBA and the head coach at FX, he's very his mindset. He's so consistent with his discipline to not overwork players and to value practice over games and time off, which I think has given him a lot of success. It's impressive, because a lot of people, they'll say the right thing, but it's hard to actually be disciplined enough to do it.
It's very different to talk the talk and walk the walk. Jeremy Pastoraro, I'm so thrilled that you were able to be here today. Thank you. You've been just a fantastic guest. Appreciate the insights. Appreciate all that you do, all that your father all that your father has done, and the sacrifice I know that the Pastoraro family has made for the sport of basketball, and our community is better and stronger for it. So thank you. And tell Brad we're going to get him on too.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. Jeremy Pastoraro.
Appreciate it.
Likewise. Jeremy Pastoraro joining us here. We're going to take a break. We'll have a couple of minutes before we go into our deep dive. You're listening to your sports leader, Sports 1440. This is the Hoop City with Paul Sir. Marvin Gaye. Too busy thinking about my baby from the hits of 1969 on Paul's playlist today. Marvin Gaye, what a voice, had so many fantastic hits. Absolutely unthinkable tragic ending to his life. Shot by his father. Just unbelievable. You just can't even imagine the tragedy to his family, to the world. So now, Josh, I'm excited. We got a couple of great choices for our NBA legend discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cat Dad texted in basically right off the top, said David Robinson. That was his throw-in. And then
The Admiral.
Yeah, great pick. But then Kale, our first-time texter, who mentioned Alexander Walker, said Charles Barkley, NBA legend.
Oh my gosh, they
Man with 30
both are.
nicknames.
They both are. What great suggestions. I'm going to go with Barkley, Charles Barkley. We have to do the Admiral at another time. And the gentleman who sent the text in on the Admiral, let's keep your information because at that time we'll get you a T-shirt as well. But Cale, thank you for Barkley. Barkley, of course, is a popular culture sensation. I think we all can say we enjoy when Barkley starts ripping on, going off on, speaking his mind without a filter. In fact, he had a great quote recently about he was ripping on his new bosses at ESPN and the terrible sideline reporters that they get, I believe, in NFL games. And somebody said, well, do you think they're going to fire you? And he goes, I hope they do. They have to pay me for 7 more years. So, I mean, the guy just has no fear. Barkley was an unbelievable basketball player. Depending on who you talk to, but the people, I've never met Charles, but the people I know that have say he's closer to 6'3" or 6'4" than 6'6". His nickname when he came out of Auburn University was Round Mound of Rebound because he was so heavy. But Moses Malone, the great Moses Malone, came up to him and said, you're never going to be any good because you're out of shape. So Barkley said, well, will you help me get into shape? So Moses Malone went into the gym before and after practice to help Barkley get into shape, which he did. He was explosive. If you can ever YouTube Charles Barkley highlights, they're incredible. His blocks at 6'3", 6'4", his blocks, his dunks. I remember this one statistic, and I can't remember the exact year, but the statistic was based on who has the most dunks during the NBA regular season. And of course, we all thought Michael Jordan. Who else would it be? It was Barkley by almost 100 dunks.
That's crazy.
And his ability to catch and dunk in traffic at his size was unbelievable. He was powerful, decent shooter, great back to the basket player. As his age settled in, he became almost an exclusively back to the basket player. MVP one year, a lot of people say, yeah, that was kind of a false MVP when he was with Phoenix. Still should have been, people were looking for Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, anybody but Michael to give the MVP year after year, even though Michael probably deserved it. But Barkley was remarkable. He's, I think, one of the quintessential examples of somebody who didn't win an NBA championship, but that didn't mean he wasn't a champion. Every team he was on, he made a lot better, a lot more effective. It wasn't somebody out there looking for his numbers. He was a team player, phenomenal rebounder, phenomenal scorer, inside, outside, shot blocker, could run the court. His explosiveness, he would get rebounds, push it out in front, go down and dunk on people. And really and truly, do yourself a favor. YouTube, Google, go find Charles Barkley highlights. You will love them. And the way he has transitioned into not just a great NBA analyst, but I think a social commentator as well. Because one thing I always have admired about Charles Barkley is he's never had this illusion about who he is or who pro athletes are other than flawed human beings. He cautions people on making NBA or pro athletes as your kids' role models because you don't know who they really are. All you can model is that one very, very important dimension of what you see on the court. But in terms of How they are off the court, you don't know that person. Become your own person. Ground yourself in solid values. Ground yourself as a solid student and citizen. But don't imitate or mimic some of the negative behavior that oftentimes pro athletes act out. I just think Charles Barkley is great for the game. The thought of TNT not being on anymore, and even though I agree with Charles, ESPN isn't TNT in terms of what they offer, but to have Barkley and his crew with Kenny Smith and Shaq and Ernie, just having them around and the ability to see them is something really special. So thank you for that. We'll get your contact information. We need to get your size for our Hoop City t-shirt that we're going to be sending out to you next week. We'll take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to do the deep dive with Ben Golliver. Ben and I had a chance to sit down and talk at length yesterday. We're going to go into the weeds about a lot of stuff happening in the NBA. You're really going to like it. Ben, nobody does it better than Ben. You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, great Josh Fenwick, here on your sports leader, Sports 1440.